In today's episode of the Unsaid Podcast, we're talking about something most people carry in silence, that deep need to be chosen and what it does to you when your worth starts to depend on someone else's yes. This is the courage to be unchosen. Live for yourself, not for others. You don't just want to be loved. You want to be chosen, not liked, not tolerated, not included because it's polite. You want someone to look at you and say, I pick you. Out of everyone, I see you, and I want you. And maybe you've never said that out loud. Maybe it sounds dramatic, but you've felt it in the quietest, most painful ways. Like when they laugh harder at someone else's joke, or forget to text you back, or choose a table that doesn't have room for you. Again, you tell yourself it's fine. You're easygoing. You don't need to be the favorite. But still, it stings every time. And it's not about being the center of attention. It's about being someone's first thought, about being wanted without needing to prove anything, about knowing they're in your life, not out of habit, but because they chose to stay. Because being chosen isn't just romantic, it's existential. It tells you, you're not invisible, you're not replaceable, you are real. So when they leave, or drift, or stop trying, it's not just heartbreak, it's erasure. Like maybe you were only ever loved for what you gave, not for who you are, and now you're stuck in the question that haunts people like you. If I stopped performing, would anyone still choose me? At the start, you didn't have to try. They lit up when you walked in. They texted first. They asked questions, remembered details, leaned in when you spoke. And for a moment, a few weeks, maybe a few months, it felt like being chosen was effortless. You didn't have to earn it. You just were it. But then something changed. The texts slowed down. The compliments faded. The effort, yours and theirs, started to feel uneven. And now, you find yourself trying again, trying to get back to that place where you felt undeniable. But here's the truth no one talks about. You didn't do anything wrong. This isn't about you losing value. It's about how the human brain is wired. In the early stages of love, friendship, or connection, your brain is flooded with dopamine, the novelty chemical. Everything about the other person feels electric. And being seen, being chosen, lights up the reward centers of your brain like fireworks. It creates a loop. I feel wanted, therefore I feel worthy. I feel worthy, therefore I feel safe. But your brain isn't built to stay in that high. It adapts. It normalizes. It stops releasing that flood of chemicals for the same interactions. And suddenly, what once felt magical now feels expected, routine, background noise. So now you crave what you once had, not just the person, but the feeling of being chosen over and over. And when that feeling fades, you start to wonder, was I only lovable when I was new? That's the betrayal. The same system that made you feel extraordinary now makes you feel forgotten. And without realizing it, you start performing. You try harder. You say funnier things, become more agreeable, more useful. Anything to be that version of yourself they seem to love at the beginning. But here's the cost. The more you perform to be chosen, the less chosen you actually feel. Because deep down, you know, they're not choosing you. They're choosing the version you crafted just to keep their eyes on you. And suddenly, being loved becomes exhausting. Because it's no longer about being seen. It's about being maintained. Everyone confuses this part. Being chosen feels like love, but it isn't. It's just the spark, not the fire. Being chosen is exciting, addictive. It lights up every part of you that wondered if you were ever enough. And for a moment, the question disappears. Because someone saw you. Someone picked you. Someone made you feel undeniable. But that feeling doesn't last. Not because anything's wrong with you, but because the brain doesn't let it. The dopamine fades. the novelty wears off, and what once felt like magic starts to feel like maintenance. So what do? You chase it. You work harder. You get funnier, softer, smarter, more helpful. You try to become the version of you that they seem to love at the beginning. And every now and then, it works. You get a flicker of that old spark, that old approval, but it doesn't feel like love anymore. It feels like a test you have to keep retaking. What most people never realize is this: it's not love you're chasing, it's certainty, a guarantee, a signal that you still matter, that you're still enough. And of course you do, because somewhere along the line, you learned that love has fine print, that being yourself was never quite enough, unless it made someone else proud or happy or stay. So now you search for safety the only way you were taught, by being wanted, by being useful, by being someone they'd never want to lose. But instead of feeling secure, you're always scanning. Did they pull away? Did they laugh less today? Did they sound distracted? You're not building love, you're forecasting loss. This is the twist that breaks people. You thought you were looking for connection, but what you really needed was relief. Relief from the anxiety that if you stop proving your worth, you'll stop being chosen. And that's the loop. A moment of closeness, a flicker of doubt, a spiral of effort, until you're exhausted, not by rejection, but by the weight of trying to stay worthy of the love you already earned. You keep thinking it was something you did, that maybe if you were more interesting, more consistent, more attractive, they would have stayed excited about you, that maybe you just stopped being enough. But what if the pain you're carrying wasn't rejection at all? What if it was something deeper? Psychologist Irvin Yalom has this phrase, existential isolation. It's the idea that no matter how close we get to someone, there's still this unbridgeable gap between us. You can be loved, admired, even surrounded by people, and still feel alone in a way that no one sees. Not because you're broken, but because you're human. And when someone chooses you, really chooses you, it's like that gap disappears. They make you feel known, real, anchored, and for a while you stop floating. You stop questioning your worth. You feel solid, visible, alive. But here's the part we never realize. That feeling doesn't come from them. It comes from what their attention reflects back to you. See, from the time we're babies, our brains have been wired to recognize love through response. A mother smiles, the baby smiles back. That's the blueprint. It tells us, you're here, you exist, you matter. So when someone pulls away, even if they don't mean to, your nervous system panics. It's not just heartbreak. It's like someone switched off the light that was proving you were real. No wonder you tried to perform, to win them back, to stay visible. Because deep down, being ignored doesn't just hurt. It threatens your sense of self. But here's what no one told you. You weren't wrong for wanting to be chosen. That desire was your nervous system searching for home. You weren't weak. You were responding to a loss of reflection, to the terrifying idea that maybe without their gaze, you don't fully exist. But the truth is, you do. Their love may have made you feel real, but it wasn't the source of your worth. It was just a mirror. And maybe now the next part of your story is learning how to see your own reflection and finally recognize it as enough. Yes, we need to be chosen. That's not weakness, it's biology. Humans survive in groups. We're wired to seek closeness, to be seen, to belong. It's natural. It's ancient. But what no one explains is this. Being chosen can't be your compass. Because if you let your worth depend on someone else's yes, you'll build your life around staying likable, not staying whole. You'll shrink the parts of you that might rock the boat. You'll silence your truth just to keep their attention. You'll become a version of yourself you don't even recognize, just so they won't walk away. And what's left then? You're picked, but you're not you anymore. And here's where it gets dangerous. Every time you hide what you really feel just to be accepted, that emotion doesn't vanish. It sinks. It turns into tension, into anxiety, into numbness. Psychologists call it repression, when you swallow what you feel to protect your place in the group. But too much repression becomes a habit. And over time, that habit can turn into something heavier: depression, burnout, even identity loss. You start to forget what you want. You start to feel disconnected from your own life, not because you're broken, but because you've been disappearing by degrees. That's why living for yourself isn't selfish. It's survival of a different kind. Not survival of the body, but of the soul. Philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre once said, "We are our choices, and if you spend your whole life waiting to be chosen, you forget that you can choose. You can choose your truth. You can choose to stop performing. You can choose a life that feels like yours, even if no one claps for it. Because here's the secret no one tells you. When you stop chasing love that only lasts if you behave, you start creating a life that doesn't disappear when someone else does. And that's freedom. Not the kind that comes from being alone, but the kind that comes from finally being real." So, yes, you'll still want to be chosen. That part won't vanish. But now, it won't own you. Because you'll know how to choose yourself. First, fully, and without apology. And something strange happens when you do. You stop begging to be seen. You start shining on your own. And the people who truly belong in your life don't need convincing to stay. So what do you do now? You've spent so long shaping yourself to be chosen. How do you suddenly just choose yourself? You don't, not all at once. You start by noticing the smallest moment where you normally perform and choosing not to. You don't apologize for your laugh. You don't soften your truth just to keep the peace. You don't send the extra text just to prove you're still lovable. You pause. You ask, if I wasn't trying to be picked, what would I say? What would I do? And then, just once, you do that instead. Even if your voice shakes, even if it goes unnoticed, even if no one claps for it. Because the point isn't to prove anything. The point is to show your nervous system something new, that you're allowed to be real, that safety doesn't have to come from someone else's approval. It can come from your own alignment. And maybe for the first time, you'll feel something you haven't felt in a long time: stillness, clarity, a sense that you didn't disappear. You belong to yourself. And from there, everything begins to shift. Not because you became more likable, but because you stopped abandoning the one person who was always here: you. Maybe you've never heard this said quite like this before, but some part of you knew, all along, that something wasn't right, that trying to be chosen all the time was costing you something: your peace, your self-trust, the quiet joy of simply being who you are without performance. And that aching question, what's wrong with me? It was never yours to carry, because nothing was ever wrong with you. You were just trying to survive the fear of being unseen, of being left behind, of being real and still worthy. But now you know. You were never meant to shape yourself just to stay loved. You were meant to belong, even without bending. And if something inside you softened while listening, if your body exhaled for the first time in a while, if a part of you whispered, "Finally, someone said it," then this was for you, and maybe someone else out there needs to feel it too. So, if you feel like it, leave a comment. Share what opened up. Sometimes your words become someone else's turning point. And if you want more of these quiet realizations, the ones that untangle old patterns and return you to yourself, there are more videos waiting for you here. You're always welcome to stay. I read every comment, and every time you share a piece of your story, it matters. Thank you for being here. You don't have to be perfect to belong here. You just have to be you. That's more than enough. I'll see you in the next one.